There we go.
All right, great. So let's get going. We're talking about social scripts, and I'm specifically targeting this to students with Angelman syndrome. I do workshops on social scripts for other populations as well, but this is all about Angelman today. And the outcomes today, we're going to just talk about what is the meaning, the definition, and the role of social scripts. We'll review a sampling of scripts. Almost all of the scripts I'm showing are related to students with Angelman, and we're going to identify the steps in making a social script. And I would just like to take this moment to thank the moms who just so graciously sent me photos and narration and background information, and I just hope I got everything right. I'm just going to use some of your work as samples, and I'm so grateful. You'll know who you are because you'll see your kids in those webinars. So in our 5 steps, we're trying to always ground what we're doing. Teaching tasks is on planning social scripts. The tools we'll be using, you'll use your students' AAC devices or some apps. I am talking almost not at all about tools today. We are going to talk about that more on the Facebook group to get specific because I just didn't have time to explain how to do a social script within your different tools. The main tool I'm going to talk about is Pictello, doing them in Pictello because that's something that many, many, many families are using. So social scripts are a concept from myself and Linda Burkhart, and you can click on that link to get a little more information about social scripts, and we've done a book and CD about them. So they're based in part on thinking about the communicative competence that Janice Light and Kathy Binger have talked about in their book, Building Communicative Competence. So communicative competence is the ability to communicate functionally in the natural environment and to adequately meet daily communication needs. And we know that students with Angelman have such a major need to communicate and interact, and that sometimes sharing the stories of your lives are really hard because kids may not have enough language. So the first thing I want to just get out of the way is what is the difference between social scripts and social stories, because I know you've all heard of social stories. So social stories are by Carol Gray. And this is her definition from her website: a social learning tool that supports the safe and meaningful exchange of information between parents, professionals, and people with autism of all ages. So I'm sure lots of you have seen social stories. Often they're stories that help students sort of navigate figuring out how people feel, the emotions, or figuring out things that are appropriate in certain situations or not appropriate. So I remember doing a very successful story, social story for a young man who was just absolutely terrified when the fire alarm rang at school and would hide under his desk, and they had a really hard time getting him to leave. So we did a social story about how it was okay, it's okay, we're all together or something like that. And then when the next alarm rang, the little boy was just completely relaxed and kept saying, it's okay, we're all together, as he walked out. So that's a social story. We're talking about social scripts, and this is from, again, myself and Linda Burkhart. Just want to make sure to give her credit. It's a support for beginning conversations for students who use augmentative and alternative communication, and it includes multiple turns and partner engagement. And I'll talk a lot more, but that's just sort of a little thumbnail sketch. So I want to mention that these are co-planned sequence social scripts, so that what we're doing is just taking away the having to think about what am I going to say, and having to make the access so much easier. So you're just either hitting a switch to go from message to message, or you're just swiping to turn the page in a book on Pictello, that type of thing. So it's co-planned is very important, though. We're not just doing these for students. We really want to, whenever possible, do them with students. So social scripts, on the little markers on the top, CC4, just means that if you have the Can We Chat book, it's on page 4, so you can get more information. So interactions such as joke telling, telling your life stories, just having chit chat, the kinds of chit chat that we all do, they're beyond wants and needs. They're real conversations, and they support people who use AAC in claiming a turn, starting that conversation, and maintaining that conversation, and then ending it. So I just love this quote from Violetta. She says, we try to make every weekend a social script for Anna. That is just gorgeous, and you'll see Anna's trip to the indoor playground later, but I just think that's something wonderful to think about, doing some fun events so they're worth talking about the next week. And I wanted you to think about what these lines are. They are all, I hope you're saying it out loud, parallel. And that's because we want to talk about parallel programming, that social scripts can't be all of it. If your students are using sequence social scripts, they must also have goals and activity for developing skills that help the individual use language that involves more personal choice making and is more generative. So your student is also using their pod book to have conversations where they're telling us what we can't already think about, what we haven't superstructured it. They're using their Proloquo app on their iPad or their Touch Chat or their Speak for Yourself or their Words for Life. Whatever your student is already using, you want to absolutely keep working on that. This is in addition, not instead. This is especially useful, though, for students who are struggling with access and students who are learning the rules of engagement. That whole conversation is really difficult to get somebody's attention and start the conversation, etc. So that's who it's for. So we're looking at individuals who struggle somewhat with access. Perhaps they have limited expressive skills because they don't know where all the words are that they need on their communication device. Maybe some of our students have early cognitive skills and they're growing in their ability to have a conversation, and so we're helping them see how it might feel. Communicative competence involves multiple areas. So here are 4 things you need to really think about. Linguistic skills, that receptive and expressive skills and that language that's spoken by your family and your community. Your operational skills, the technical skills you need to access it. So maybe some of our students are using key guards to help them direct select. Maybe some of our students are using partner-assisted scanning or a switch, etc. Social skills, that knowledge, that judgment, the skills and the social rules of interaction. That's where we're really targeting today. And the strategic skills, compensatory strategies to overcome functional limitations. We're also looking at that. A social script is a strategic skill. It helps students who haven't learned all the language and also juggling all of this language on their device and who they want to talk to and what they want to say and where are those words on my device and I need to figure out the grammar to be able to say that, etc. So we can be strategic in just giving a social script. Social competence, again, just more in depth, the knowledge, judgment, and skills in the social rules of interaction. So that includes the skills to initiate, maintain, develop, and terminate interactions. The skills you need to develop positive relationships and interactions with others, and also to express a full range of communicative functions. And we know that students with Angelman are able to do so much more than just requesting. You know, we have stories about students like Nico is tattling on his dad. He's telling a story about dad let Spy Kids when mom had been out of town and he was desperately trying to talk her into watching Spy Kids. We know that I just got a message from a mom day before yesterday telling me about her daughter who the therapist was using ET sort of as a motivator. And the daughter just got so excited to watch this little clip about E.T. and immediately jumped on her Proloquo, which she has with Core Intermediate 60, and said, space, sky, telling them that E.T.'s family's out in space, way up in the sky, and he wants to get there. So just so much language and so much wanting to share and give more information. So that all those full range of communicative functions, teasing, sharing information, commenting, describing, all those goals are really important. Social scripts and social competence, how are they related? So many students who use AAC have much more that they'd like to share than they currently have the vocabulary knowledge and the linguistic skills to share. And many students with Angelman are seeking social interaction. That's something that they just want so much. And social scripts provide a powerful and really socially appropriate way to engage others. So a couple of very simple step listing apps. I have a number of students who use Tap Speak Sequence, where you just hit the switch and you can put a picture or not and just hit a switch, or hit the button on your iPad and just go from message to message to message, just uber simple. Lots of our students are using Pictello. And so what we can add with these is we have multiple messages that are sequenced. We can add text to the buttons. We can add videos for a little bit more engagement, very short little videos. So really powerful ways to support this. Just a quick link to Pictello information. This is our review of it on SPED Apps 2, the wiki. And so just to let you know a little bit more about that, and it does a lot more than you can even see in here. Sequence scripts, what are they? So they are pre-planned, as I said. They're sequenced. You can go, you hit a switch and go to the next one. You go to the next one, you go to the next one. One of the nice things about doing it in an app such as Pictello is that you can also go back. If somebody missed one, it's very easy to go back. These are co-constructed, as I mentioned before, by the student who's going to use them and by their partner, which may often be a parent or a speech therapist. The goal is social interaction and learning to have that conversation. But one of the issues is not another boring slideshow. So we have to just be really careful that it's not, here I am at X, and this is me, and this is so-and-so, and just having a narration that doesn't involve the partner, because we don't get as much engagement if it's just a bunch of pictures with a caption. Social scripts are a little bit beyond that because we're going to try to get the engagement of the partner to be built in. So here are the goals. Now, when I do a full-day workshop, I talk about the research behind each of these. And the deal is that the research is showing that for most students who use AAC, communication may not be so frequent. It may not be as fun. It's often not self-initiated or super varied. Students often don't get multiple turns in one sitting. They often don't have a range of partners, including peers. We don't have a lot of different pragmatics models, such as describing, teasing, persuading, requesting, tattling, etc. We want to have lots of pragmatics, and we want it to be easy. We want this to be something you can do without an enormous amount of time. And so I'm just going to show you one to give an example. This is Lucas, his first snow. And I started, instead of having a picture of Lucas in the snow, I started with I just went online and got a picture of a question mark. And you could go take a picture of the question symbol on your child's communication system. I didn't use one of those because I wanted this to be more generic for everybody, but you might just take a screenshot of the question on your child's pod book, or the generic question symbol on your child's Proloquo, etc. Okay? So the question is, guess what I got to do last weekend? And then we might give some hints. I'll give you hints. It was outside, it was fun, and it was cold. And so now people are starting to make guesses. Maybe they get it right, maybe they don't get it wrong, don't get it right. Doesn't matter. We're going to go, it's sequence. I'm going to hit the swipe or hit the switch and go to the next picture, and that answers the question. I went skiing with my family. So here's Lucas out skiing. It was his first snow, so it's really exciting. Did you ever get to go skiing? I'm turning it back, so I'm involving that partner. We're teaching within this that Lucas takes a turn and his friend takes a turn, and then Lucas gets a turn and his friend takes a turn. So we're trying to just build that in from the get-go, that expectation of turn taking. My dad and I played in the snow. Do you like to play with your dad? It was carnival. I got to dress up like the Hulk. Who is your favorite character? Okay, this one I made more open-ended. I'm trying not to ask only yes/no questions. I want it to be something that gets a conversation going. So maybe they're saying, Spider-Man, I love Spider-Man. So now we've got more rich engagement going. My friend dressed up like Princess Sophia. Do you like princesses? Or you could have asked, who's your favorite princess, if this is a child who would have kids who would have lots of princess knowledge. Well, that's all. Here's my closing slide. It was a fun day. Later, dude. Now, at the end, we're going to talk about how this gets co-constructed. That's a fabulous place for Lucas to decide what he's going to say at the ending. Is he going to say, later, dude, or is he going to say, catch you later, or see you later, alligator? And he might also decide whether to say it was a fun day, or it was a great day, or it was an awesome day. He gets to kind of help with that customizing so that he has ownership in the script. And we're also working on language on his device as we're creating the script. So if let's pretend like Lucas actually used that script and he got to have it at school and he used it with his relatives and he showed it to his dad and so forth. Now we could see that communication could be really frequent for him. Do you think that would be motivating? Oh my gosh, such a fun event. Of course it would be motivating to talk about it. It could easily be self-initiated. He can go to Pictello, and what we would probably do is set up a separate bookshelf for his social scripts, and then he picks the one about about going skiing, and now he can tell about it. It's varied to maintain interest because we've got lots of different parts of that conversation, and it has multiple turns. He doesn't just get to say, I went skiing, boom, done. He gets to really talk about it. Obviously, this would be great with a range of partners and really interesting to his peers. I mean, he's talking about the Hulk. He's talking about princesses. He's talking about skiing. Of course, his friends would be really engaged in this topic. It's a way to model a range of pragmatics. He's asking questions. He's describing. It was really fun. He's recounting. He's telling about what he did. So a lot of pragmatics in there. And it can be pretty easy. We can do this fairly quickly. Once you get to learn Pictello, it's really fast. So let's look at some social agendas. This is, again, from Janice Light, and she's looked at social agendas of humans. This has nothing to do with AAC. We all have these social agendas, and she's just shared those in her writing. A social closeness, a sense of belonging, and sharing the aspects of your personality. Oh my gosh, these are so important to all students. Are these something that resonate for you with your children with Angelman? I'm guessing yes. And so let's think about how that might work. So if we look at a sense of belonging, think about common interest. So here is Erin. She's with her friends on their cheer team, and Erin and Casey just won a ribbon. This is a huge sense of belonging. It also can help show her personality through these pictures, but another thing it can do is help change people's perceptions who don't know Erin. They're like, oh my gosh, she's a cheerleader? Oh, that's very cool. So now people who find out about Erin and find out she's a cheerleader are already predisposed to want to talk to her about cheer because it's really interesting. If you have the population of people who go skiing, now you have people who are going to have that common interest with Lucas. So we can all think about what is it our children are interested in that are similar to other kids their same age. So another common interest we had in the Lucas script was the Hulk and princesses. That's something that other kids have a lot of background knowledge and a lot of interest in. So we've already developing that sense of belonging. Aspects of personality. Humor scripts are super fun. Here's an example of the joke of the day, because what I see happening is it's just the jokes on devices are just, what's a volcano? A mountain with hiccups. There's no sense of conversation there. So here I have one with, hey, we've got that opening. Want to hear a joke? There's my starter. Now here's the joke, what's a volcano? A little maintainer. Can't guess? The answer. A mountain with hiccups. A comment, okay, okay, it's corny. And that's what your student would be customizing. Maybe they'd say, okay, okay, it's silly. Okay, okay, it's dumb. Whatever they choose to say, they get to pick the word there. They get to pick the joke. Got a better one? They could have chosen to say, instead of got a better one, do you have a good joke? So we could have different ways that we customize it. Doing funny poems, just performing funny poems. Hey, I got a good joke, poem. It's called The Panther. It's by Ogden Nash. Can you see how you could just go download Ogden Nash's book? This is like a lot of his poems are out on the web for free. And so The Panther by Ogden Nash. The panther is like a leopard. Swipe. Except it hasn't been peppered. Swipe. If you see a panther crouch, swipe. Prepare to say, swipe. Remember, we're getting engagement. Ouch! Swipe. And if called by a panther, swipe. Don't answer. Swipe. The end. So just a fun way to share humor. Pranks are always amazing, and I wanted to add pranks in here. There just wasn't room. So I'm going to put a handout up on the Angelman Communication Training Series within a week, and if you don't see it in a week, somebody email me because I could easily forget. But I'm just going to do a little presentation on pranks for you guys because pranks are so darn fun. Just putting a bug in somebody's bed or having a bug in an ice cube that you put in somebody's drink, etc. Changing perceptions is so powerful. So here is a little social script and a story about Matthew. This is on that Can We Chat CD too. And so he was going to the doctor, he was going to see the neurologist, and the neurologist never talked to him. Always talked to Mom and just acted like he wasn't even there. And so Mom is determined that's not going to happen today. So he's got new shoes that light up, and so he's comes in with his new shoes, and he's got a step-by-step, and he's got a script. I have something to say. I've got something new. Can you guess? I'll give you a hint. They flash red and green. Give up? They're my new shoes. And he's stomping around the room, and the doctor's laughing. The doctor went off and turned out the light so Matthew could walk around. They held hands and walked around. From that time on, every time Matthew came in, he treated him like another kid. It was the Velveteen Rabbit phenomenon. Matthew became real to him that day. So social scripts are really powerful in changing perceptions. Information transfer, that you could give directions, but we could also tell stories of our lives. So let's look at a story from Leah about her holiday weekend. So it was, they were doing a bunch of fun things to celebrate Angelman Syndrome Day. And so this is just the opening picture. And she says, on Friday I went to Lollipop Land. I met Freya, Kate, and Katie. So this is a book that her mom made. And we're going to talk later about how we could change it up a little bit to make it more of a conversational script. This is just absolutely fabulous as a book. So when I'm making suggestions, please don't think I'm saying your books aren't wonderful, because they are amazing. I love this book. I'm just saying that if we're going to use it as a social script, then we're going to change it up a little bit to try to get the partner to answer back, because a book we might just be reading by ourselves over and over. A social script is by definition done with someone else, and so we want them to have a part in it. But this is so adorable. On Friday I went to Lollipop Land. I met Freya, Kate, and Katie. On Saturday I went to Almondvale Park. I met all my Angelman friends. On Sunday I went horse riding, swimming, and to Fun Box. I met Freya, Lucy, Anna, and Zach. On Monday, I went to Glasgow Greens to ride bikes, play in the park, and walk Pippa. I went with Abby, Finn, Pippa, and Mummy. On Tuesday, I went to the Science Center. On Wednesday, I went back to school. I need a rest. Isn't that so great to have that really fun ending, that she did all these amazing things on her long time off, and now she's like exhausted. And isn't this fun that we've got kids living all over? We've got stories so far from Barcelona via Andorra. We've got stories from Scotland. You're going to see more stories from Canada, etc. So it's very fun that we've got this international thing going on. Let's look at the anatomy of a conversation. This is from Linda Burkhardt and myself, just looking at dissecting a conversation so we can see how to set up social scripts. So we have these attention getters, and you can just see lots of different ways you can do attention getters that are really fun for kids, and they get to pick their attention getter. Conversation starters. Guess what I did? I have a secret. Listen to this. A lot of times we'll use a generic conversation starter and then a specific one. So I did the generic guess where I went on Lucas's script, and then told I went skiing with my family. So we had sort of a get you going, gotta suck you in, make you want to participate, and then I'm going to tell you what the topic of this conversation really is. We do a lot of maintainers and holders, interjections, like where we're talking about how fun something was. I'll give you a clue, or it was so embarrassing, and then it got even worse. So things to keep you on the edge of your seat and want you to keep staying. In the joke script I did, the idea about can't guess, that's an example of a maintainer. It's kind of silly, huh, is another example of a maintainer, just keeping that conversational ball rolling. Turn transfers, this is where I'm going to turn it to somebody else. So when I'm making you guess, I'm transferring the turn to you. When I'm asking if you like princesses, boom, back to you. When I'm asking what kind of superheroes or characters you like, it's back to you. So what do you think? What's new with you? All of these are turn transfers. And then a closing. Sometimes our closing asks to get somebody else to tell about this. When you do a prank, let's find somebody else to trick. So closings can be really just a gotta go, catch you later, or they can be a way to close this conversation and start a new one. So they're different depending on the activity. So let's just look at Leia's wonderful story and think about how we might make it more interactive. So we have this page. On Friday I went to Lollipop Land. I'm going to have you guys write in something that we could do from what you've seen already. What would be an example of a guessing game that she could do where she makes them guess before she shows them Lollipop Land, or a way to transfer this to another student to ask a question that the other partner has to answer. So go ahead and type those in real fast, and I'll have Amy share those as they come up.
Okay. The first one is, do you think I met any of my friends there?
Perfect. Perfect. And then the next screen could talk about who she met there. That's fabulous. And it's what we call is don't give away the farm. We don't tell everything in the first slide because we sneak in other information. Anything else, Amy?
What shops did you see or go to?
Perfect. And again, these are lovely open-ended these are questions that turn it back to her. They're really fun. And they can also be questions you ask other people, like, have you ever been to Lollipop Land, or do you like Lollipop Land? Or what do you do when you go to Lollipop Land? So we can change it in that way. And we have time for one more, Amy, if there is one.
There isn't.
Okay, then we'll just
Oh,
move
I'm
on.
sorry, one just came in.
Okay, great.
Did you eat? What did you eat or drink?
Perfect, perfect. And these are things that could send you back to your communication device to try to find some answers. Here is something that a lovely, lovely, lovely script that was done for Josh Harris by his mom, Pam. And what she's done is set it up based on the green is for our starters, the maintainers are yellow, the content of the story talking about movies are in white, and he even had a folder about Nemo because he loves Nemo so much. She did some closings in red and some comments in lavender. So you can just see how she set up a whole screen for him that looked the same. What would change about them would be the purple ones were always the same, the red ones were always the same on all of his social scripts, but it would be several different maintainers and a different starter, and the content would be different. And you can read more about that in the case example about Josh going to the movies. So that's just sort of a generic talking about movies. But remember, for some of our students, we really need to separate out the motor and the cognitive tasks, because motor tasks can be really hard for kids, and thinking about what you're going to say is really hard too. So that, what I just showed you, works so well for Josh. It might be too hard initially for your students. You might want to make it much simpler. So here's a lovely example of a social script that's right there in the Pictello sample stories, and I just took a couple of screenshots. So it's What I Like by Josh Harris, and this is a generic conversation script. This is his starter. These are things I like was his starter. And then when you go to the next screen, he has the next step. I really like my iPod. It's always with me, but then he has a turn transfer that's open-ended. What's on your playlist? And now you get to talk about the kinds of things you like to listen to. I like to go to movies. What was the last movie you saw? So he's just transferring it right back to you. So great way, just a great example that you can look at on Pictello. So let's take the story and take it to a social script. Let's look again at another one. Here we've got, on Monday I went to Glasgow Green to ride bikes, play in the park, and walk Pippa. I went with Abby, Finn, Pippa, and Mummy. So again, we could have a guessing before the slide before this. Could be Monday, I went somewhere really fun. I'll give you hints. I got to ride bikes, play in the park, and walk Pippa. And now you ask the person to guess where you were. Then the next screen has the picture of I was at Glasgow Park. I went with Abby, Finn, Mama, and Pippa, and Mummy. Does that make sense? If you don't give away the farm, don't tell where she went until they get to talk with you. So we have the first screen has just that symbol for showing where, or just a generic question, and then saying, where do you think I went? I'll give you clues. I got to ride bikes, play and walk Pippa. And then we give the picture showing her at the park. Does that make sense? So let's look at types of scripts. In the book, we talk a lot about action scripts, which are really helpful for beginners. And so they engage them in an action, and they receive tangible results from their communicative attempts. So samples are bubbles and back rubs and putting on lotions. And I am not going to talk about those today. I just want you to know that those are, you can set those up as well. But I think a lot of your students, so for example, if you have a student using Pod, you already pretty much have an action script for playing with cars or for playing with dolls. If your student is using Proloquo, if you go to the vehicles, there's lots of conversation already built in the core language for your students who are on, for example, Course 60. So your students have ways already to be very rich, have very rich actions involving that. So many of your students are going to be beyond needing to have their, talking about playing cars on a social script. Class and work participation scripts we might need more of. They give an opportunity to maximize classroom activities such as studying for tests, engaging in a cooperative activity. Younger students might use scripts to be a song leader, a story leader, a transition leader. Older students and adults might be looking at work or participation scripts such as applying labels. So let's just look at a couple of examples. Here's book discussion. So you're talking about books. This is something that a lot of classes have an opportunity to talk about books with. You meet with a peer or the small group, or you'd even talk about your book in a big group. So you could do something like this. Hey, what's up? I'm reading the coolest book. Want to hear about it? It's called Holes. I really like one of the characters, Zero. It's a mix of real and fantasy. What are you reading right now? What do you like about it? Interesting. Better get back to my desk. Bye. So this is just for students to have a quick discussion about a book they like. But now we're going to move on to conversation scripts. That's what today is mostly about. So you could have a general script, such as the weather, movies, sports. Prank scripts, remember, I am going to share on our site. And story scripts are what we're going to talk about the most. Things like going to a fair, you saw a friend, etc. So we could have a generic conversation such as this last weekend script. But let's talk about Dimitri Goes Kayaking. This is like such a great topic. I did something so cool. Can you guess? So again, we don't start out by telling you it's kayaking. I wouldn't even have that name, Dimitri Goes Kayaking. That's just for me to share this with you. I wouldn't put the name kayaking. I might put Dimitri at the river. Do something so they don't really know the name of the story so they can't guess. Don't give away the farm. That's our mantra today. I'll give you hints. It was outside, it was on the river, and it was fun. And so they may guess kayaking and they may not, and it doesn't matter because now we get to give away the farm. We went kayaking. Did you ever get to go kayaking? Again, I have a generic U symbol that I got online because it's sort of fun. But you might want to use the U symbol for your student's communication device to show that you're saying you. You get to decide. We wore wetsuits and life jackets. Cool, huh? Awesome, huh? That's where Dimitri gets to customize, right? We also played Squash the Mom. Did you ever do that? So again, I'm just turning it right back over to you. I love hanging out with James. That's it. Catch you later. Fun, right? Just so simple, but so elegant. So strategic competence and social scripts. They can be so extremely strategic. Just knowing when to use a social script, like telling a story quickly, can be incredibly helpful for people who use AAC. So it's something I would really think about. So it's that Musselwhite 30-second rule. I'm not talking about creating the social script. I'm talking about the student being able to get to that script and use it. If you can't set it up in 30 seconds, it's not gonna happen. So we want to make sure that we've set this up so that our students can really be successful. So let's try it. I already gave you the teaser about Anna's visit to the indoor park, so you're going to help me write a script. So we're going to start out with a, hey, guess where I went? And so again, I just went online and got a generic where symbol. I'll give you hints. It was blank. It was blank and blank. Okay, what would be some clues? Remember, she's going to an indoor playground. So just write some words on there that would give you clues. It was blank and blank and blank. That would give us clues to indoor playground. Ready? Type.
Caroline, while people are thinking of their words, one quick question for clarification. Did you make these books and slides? Is this Pictello?
I did not. I just did this in PowerPoint, and
Okay.
then I would take I would do it in Pictello, but I was just doing it very quickly because my 3-year-old granddaughter's here, so I was just doing
Okay,
it
someone just wanted to make sure.
But absolutely, this would be, Pictello would be a great place to do it.
Okay, so here comes your words.
All right. I'll give you hints. It was
Indoor,
and
fun, had lots of lights.
cool. Okay? These are great. So just that type of thing. It doesn't matter if they don't. Oh, and then the next picture would show there was the indoor playground. Sorry. We ate a special cake. How would you turn that over? Now we're going to do a turn transfer. How would you turn that back to ask a question or a comment? Make a comment that's going to turn it back to the other person. Ready? Type.
Do you like cake?
Perfect.
What kind of cake?
Right?
What's your favorite dessert?
And do you like cake is fine to have 1 or 2 of those, but it's also good to have a few open-ended things like what kind of cake do you like or what's your favorite dessert would be good examples of a little bit more open-ended. So it's fine to have a couple of yes-no, but you don't want to have only yes-no, okay? They have a whole room of balls. Do you think I should go in? So that's just a simple yes-no, but it's sort of related to Anna. And then she says, I did it! I jumped in! Transfer that turn. Send it back to your partner. Right. Ready, type. Hint. When they're little X's, that's where I want you to type in something.
What did it feel like?
Oh, good one. So you could ask a question for Anna, and you could also ask a question for the partner. So that's a good example of asking a question to Anna that she's going to need to go on her device to answer. We could also just ask a yes/no question to Anna. Did you like it? And now let's ask a question to the other partner too.
Another one is, what fun things do you like?
Perfect. Again, a nice generic question.
Um, what is your favorite color ball?
Oh, that's cool. I love that
Would you
because it's an easy question to answer, but it's because we can also navigate to her device. So it's super easy for Anna to answer, and then they could tell their favorite color ball. That's great.
and would you jump in?
Oh, that's good. And then she's just turning and say, she jumped in. Would you jump in? Perfect. These are all fantastic. You guys are totally getting them. I saw my friends. Your return transfer type.
Did you do other things?
So we've turned it back. So this is great. So we've asked Anna a question, another question for her to answer. We were asking her to elaborate. And she's getting to tell, it's sort of a tell me more to Anna. It's such a gorgeous picture. That's just the richest picture to, I love it.
Which game or game station do you like most?
Nice. Okay, ideas for closing you can use over and over and over. So I'm going to share my idea, and you all can write some of yours. I would have one, just a photo of the kid waving goodbye to show that that's the end of the story, or that's all, folks. You could have a picture of Porky Pig saying that's all, folks, just having fun if your kid loves that Porky Pig thing and knows that, just something like that. And I actually like the idea of having a photo of your a child waving goodbye, because then they can type in different things. Well, that's it, or I'm finished, or catch you later, see you around. So they get to customize, but we don't have to go find a new photo every time, because that can take so much time. And are there any other ideas, Amy, that other people want to share there?
It was so much fun. Um,
Perfect.
I hope we
Yeah,
can go again soon.
great.
Maybe we can go there one day to play together.
And that's a lovely turn transfer. Maybe we can go. That's a really nice way to try to work on developing friendships. So I like that a lot. So what we're saying here is you want to have a closing about the activity, and then maybe a page that tells you I'm done with the conversation. What we find with social scripts is that kids aren't sure if the conversation is over, and so they're a little uncomfortable about walking away. So that's where we have the bye, catch you later. The kid waving could come as you have a slide maybe that says maybe we can go there sometime, or it was so great, and then a slide that's clearly a closing slide. So a lot of times it's fun to just dance with the girl you brought. So this is David's walk. So what happened is David's mom just had a bunch of photos from a walk they took a few months ago. And so let's just grab all photos and plan something around it. So here we have, I went for a walk with my friends. Can you guess who took this picture? And we're going to guess his mom, his friend. Did David take it? And the answer is, I took the picture. I used my iPad. I love walking along Lakeshore Drive. And then we could transfer that for something such as, have you ever been there? So now we've moved to Ontario now. It's fun to look up too. So type in something you could say there, some kind of a comment or a transfer. It could be either one. And that is an airplane.
What do you see up there?
Excellent. And notice these are very high frequency words. I'm trying to use a lot of high frequency words in these. What do you see up there? Every one of those was in the top 40. Score! So just asking things that we can model some of the language for this after, not during the middle of a conversation, but just at another time is a really fun thing.
Do you like?
Sometimes we,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Go
ahead, Amy.
Do you like clouds? And I am afraid of thunder. And you? Or are you?
Oh, nice, nice. Sometimes we walk a long way. Do you think I get tired? And then we could just come up with a sentence for this one. You know, the city is so pretty from the lake or something like that. There are lots of different things we could write about that. But I want to talk a little bit more about how we create the scripts before we're done with a little help from my friends. We want it to be pretty fast. We want it to be very easy. And we want it to be clear. And so sometimes we use partner-assisted auditory scanning. And so it's just like when you go out to order and you ask for ice cream and they say, what kind of ice cream do you want? And you say, I don't know, what do you have? And they give you a list and then you pick from that list. If you're not already doing partner-assisted auditory scanning, there are just some great handouts on that at Linda Burkhart's website. So maybe somebody would put a link to a partner-assisted auditory scanning article at our Facebook group, because that's kind of beyond the scope of today, but so great. We do two-handed choice making a lot. So we're trying to decide if the student wants to say, we want to say awesome, so we hold up one hand and kind of move it in the air, and then we hold up the other hand and give the other choice and move it in the air, right on, and then we put both hands up and say awesome or right on. And then the child eye points or touches the hand to pick what they want. So that's just a two-handed choice making, the way that they might choose how to customize. So let's look at customizing. This is Sadie's script about fun, friends and fun. Now I had, her mom is a photographer, so these are just glorious photos, and I had so many to pick from, so it was really easy. And I think that's a great thing, is to take more photos than you think you can use. I went to Cozumel with my family. I had so much fun. So I'm not making you guess here because I just want to get you right into the story, because really the story is going to be about our friendships, not about our families. Sorry, Karen. Can't always be about us moms. Can you guess the very best part? Again, just a generic question. And of course, they're probably not going to guess it. I made new friends. They are cool. Now, the thing that's underlined is the part that Sadie gets to pick. So that's where Sadie gets to decide if her friends are nice or sweet or cool or awesome or amazing. And she's choosing that on her communication device. Or if we're in a super big hurry, we're just giving her the two-handed choice making. But obviously, if we have time, we want her to customize it on her device. We played in the water. Do you love that? Do you like that? Do you enjoy that? Do you, right? She got choices. We played beach volleyball. Do you know what the balls were? And now the partner's guessing. They were water balloons. I got blank wet, super wet, very wet, really wet, so wet. Again, what a great way to teach her about adverbs, that she's trying to pick an adverb to go into this story. Guess who made our bracelets? My friend Tessa made them. They are epic! Awesome, amazing, cool, fantastic, stupendous, blah, blah, blah. Now I get to FaceTime. Guess who that is? It's my best friend, Tessa. And now, obviously, she could choose whether to say best friend or whatever. And I could have done this in 2 pages. Now I get to FaceTime. I could have done just a generic picture of FaceTiming and then gone and then said, guess who I FaceTimed? Go to the next page, and it can show the picture that shows Tessa with her description of best friend, etc. So lots of leeway on whether you want this to be fast. And you're going to base this on things like, What is the attention span of your own child? Are they going to just stay with it if we have so many pages? Or do we need to make this short, 5 pages? Would they love stringing people along and making them guess? And now I'm going to give you another clue, and I'm going to give you another clue, and then we're going to give you the answer. I mean, some kids just adore doing that, not giving away the farm in inch by inch by inch. Other kids, boom, want to get to it because they're going to lose interest. And that's depending also on the age of the students. I'm finding that a lot of my older students have a lot more fun just, waiting, etc. So here's Erin's cheer story again. Let's see how, again, she has the coolest cheer book. Oh my gosh, I love it that her mom made. Let's see how we could change a book into a social script. Something like, my cheer team rocks. We are the best, amazing, fantastic, fantabulous, blah, 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 okay? So lots of ways to customize. So if any of you are feeling like this, I saved time for questions today. I'm so proud of myself. If you're feeling like, everyone quit doing things until I have a chance to catch up, I feel like this daily. So I've got some doggy bags. At my website, AAC Intervention, just type in social scripts. There are a number of sample scripts. Or just type in scripts, because there's lots of scripts you can download, and maybe somebody who knows my website could even make some links. The Angelman Communication Training Facebook group, if you're new at this, please find that group because we are going to be talking about this, and so we will have lots of fun with it. I would love everybody to be able to have my chapbook and social scripts CD. What I did is, if you want it, if you're a parent, it's $5. It's usually $35, and $10 to anybody else until March 15th. So you just send me an email, and I'll just send you a link to it, because it has a whole bunch of sample scripts, and it has a lot of case examples of how we set up scripts and why we did them, etc. So just wanted to give that opportunity. So possible next scripts. You're going to just try one social script. I'll tell you what might be even easier is take a book you already did and just save as. Don't we love save as, our new best friend, right? Just save that as a social script and just change it out a little bit. There's the books, every single book that I was sent is just like wants to be a social script desperately, and it's so close. The only things we have to do is add some turn transfers and some customization, where the student gets to pick some of the words, especially the adjectives and some of the action words, etc. And the introduction, the starter and the goodbye are great for kids to add. That's the easiest way to customize. So let them customize something that's already in existence, and then you add a couple of turn transfers. Share these handouts and the webinar links with your child's school and speech therapist, etc. Read our Facebook posts, and of course plan to come next week. We'll have another webinar. We're going to take some questions while you're writing down your questions. I just can't even tell you how grateful I am. I actually sent my donation into the on Angelman Syndrome Day, and I hope you guys will too, to keep these types of things going, because the Angelman Syndrome Foundation has made this available because they found a grant from the Foster Family Charitable Foundation. It's a family foundation established in Central California. So we are just really grateful, as always, to the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. We think you guys rock. So any questions, Amy?
There's one quick question about how payment is handled for the CD. So they saw that they...
Yeah, I'll send you that back. It's you can send a check. I'll give you the information. You can either do a check or you can do pay. I have a PayPal account, but I'll give you that information. Contact me first.